I stood knee-deep in the lake, the golden hour light shimmering around my legs. The air smelled like pine needles and mud, and for a moment I forgot everything was about to go to hell. That all changed the second I heard footsteps crunching on the gravel behind me. I turned just as a tall woman marched toward me, her hair pulled into a perfect bun. She had a clipboard in one hand, and a look that said she thought she owned the lake. There was a pin on her blouse that read HOA Enforcement Officer, and I already knew I was in trouble. She stopped in front of me. "Excuse me," she said, voice sharp as a knife. "What do you think you're doing out here?" My heart sank. I gripped my fishing rod tighter and tried to calm my voice before I answered. I'm fishing, ma'am," I said slowly. The water around the bobber barely rippled in the quiet evening. "Fishing," the woman repeated, eyes narrowing. "This is our community lake, not a public pond. There are rules, no unauthorized fishing." I blinked, stunned. "Our lake? You mean this lake is owned by the HOA now?" She crossed her arms. "You'd better believe it. We just updated the rules." She sighed and plucked a bright yellow piece of paper from her clipboard. "According to the new HOA rules, this is a $500 fine right now." I stared at the citation she held out. It looked like a parking ticket, the kind you'd ignore until the late fee hits. "You can't be serious," I said, breath catching. "Yes, I am serious," she snapped. "Now either pay up or get out." My anger flared. "I'm part of this neighborhood too. Doesn't that count for something? How can you fine me like I'm some criminal?" She let out an exasperated sigh. "This isn't about your taxes or your feelings. The rules are the rules. I'm just enforcing them." For a second it felt like the lake itself was laughing at me. I took a deep breath. "All right, fine," I said through clenched teeth. "But tell me something. Who the hell are you to slap a $500 ticket on a guy for fishing?" Her lip curled into a smirk. "Name's Christine, HOA board president." I shook my head. "The HOA board president? I've lived here 20 years and never saw you." She straightened up, pride radiating. "Well, you will now. Get used to me." With that, she turned on her heels and stomped back up the path. I watched her go for a long moment, my chest heaving as anger bubbled up. A fine for fishing of all things. Anger and disbelief clashed inside me. This was my childhood lake. My dad built the dock where I stood. He took me fishing right here as a kid. And now this clipboard-wielding Karen had the nerve to lecture me. I finally tore my eyes away from the direction she left and focused back on the water. My bobber drifted lazily. I scooped it up and reeled in a heavy line, slinging the rod into the corner of my canoe and tugging at the knots to pack up. My hands shook slightly. The sunset had lost its warm glow and now just felt weak and yellow, like everything about that evening had been drained. I didn't know how long I lingered in the silence by myself. My mind raced with fury and confusion. Couldn't this lady let one old man fish in peace? When at last I climbed out of the water and slung the gear into my car, my stomach was twisted into knots. I'd intended to stay a little longer, to watch the first stars come out. Now I just wanted to get away. I drove home in a fuming silence, the occasional curse muttered under my breath as if Christine could sneak in through the windows and hear me. Every now and then I glanced at the yellow slip on the passenger seat. The big words "violation" in bold across the top just made my stomach churn more. $500. The HOA was charging a $500 fine to fish. It felt like a punch to the gut every time I thought about it. Pulling into the driveway of my modest house, I tried to slow my breathing and unclench my fists before going inside. "Hi, honey," Mary said, poking her head out from the kitchen. Our corgi Buster barked excitedly and trotted over with a wagging tail. Our daughter Emily was coloring at the kitchen table. "Daddy, what took you so long? Did you catch any fish?" I managed a thin smile for her. "Hey Pumpkin, not tonight, baby. I got delayed." My voice cracked a little. Why was I even trying to pretend this was no big deal to a 5-year-old? Emily pouted. "Oh, I'm sorry, Daddy. Maybe tomorrow?" "Yeah, tomorrow," I said, ruffling her hair. Inside I was burning. Instead of going upstairs to rest and hold my daughter, I had to go out and argue with a woman in heels about a stupid rule. My blood felt heavy. My own neighborhood was turning into a place where I had to tiptoe around for fear of getting hit with another surprise. "I'm fine," I managed to say to Mary when she asked. She gave me an appraising glance, but nodded and went back to making dinner. I headed to the garage to put away my gear and clear off the canoe. My hands were still shaking as I worked. Inhaling the smell of fresh pine that came through the open garage, I remembered better days on that lake. Christmas mornings when my dad had given me this fishing rod as a gift, or lazy Saturday afternoons spent with him and the dog, casting lines and telling dumb jokes. None of those days had ever come with a clipboard or a fine. Once the canoe was back in the drive, I stomped back inside. The distant clatter of a spoon against a pot on the stove, and the hum of late afternoon TV through another window were normal in contrast to how out of place I felt. "Is dinner almost ready?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Mary glanced up. "In a minute. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." I forced a laugh. "Just the HOA, that's all," I said lightly. "They hit me with a fine today." "Crazy, huh?" Mary stopped stirring and turned. She immediately frowned. "They fined you? But why, honey?" I ground my teeth. "Fishing," I muttered. "Apparently I'm not allowed to fish without a permit or something." Mary blinked. "A permit? In a neighborhood lake? That has to be wrong." "That's what I told her," I said. "But she gave me this little ticket and said it's a $500 fine." Emily looked up, wide-eyed. "Daddy got in trouble?" "Nothing like that, sweetie," I soothed her quickly. "Daddy just had a stupid run-in. We can ignore it." I tried to push it aside, but as I took a seat at the kitchen table, images from the confrontation kept invading me. The smug glare Christine had, her hands on her hips as if she literally owned the place. The fine, $500 damn dollars. "Don't worry about it," Mary said quietly. "We'll deal with it. Just eat some soup." I nodded, forcing down my anger as I ate, but inside, I was boiling. $500 for fishing? I'd pay her double. Then maybe she'd walk off the shore herself. Later that night I sat on the back porch with a cold beer and stared at the dark water of our small backyard pond. Not the same lake, but at least the fish were my own property. For now. Buster curled up beside me, sensing my unease. I scrolled through my phone, half expecting an HOA email or notice, but got nothing. I finally grabbed my phone and dialed my oldest friend, Ken. Ken and I had grown up together in the neighborhood, and he was a total outdoorsman. If anyone'd have some idea how to handle this, it'd be him. "Hey man, guess what?" I began. A few rings, then Ken's voice. "Well, if you got in trouble for fishing at 2 a.m. again, maybe you should stick to daylight." "Not funny," I growled. "They actually fined me for fishing. $500. Ken laughed quietly. "Ah. The HOA strikes again, huh? They probably fined the cat last year for peeing on the neighbor's rosebush." I leaned back. It was Christine, the board president. She just walks up and slips me this ticket. That crazy lady? Seriously. She's calling herself board president. Name's Christine. I took a breath. And now I have to pay or they haul me out of here. Can you believe that? Ken sighed on the other end. Town ain't run by a homeowners association anywhere I've heard that would fine folks for fishing. Did she have a permit for stepping on shore too? Very funny. I laughed when she said that too. I rubbed my face. What do I do? He was quiet for a moment. There might be something to that. Maybe check the HOA rules, see if this no fishing without permit is even in writing anywhere you know. I tried. There's nothing on the HOA website about it. I scrolled and showed him evidence. Well, there was no evidence, except that fine in my hand. Not a word. We do have the sign at the lake, but it just says private property, HOA residents only. Nothing about fishing permits. Ken huffed. Typical. They make up rules behind closed doors. Then he got serious. Look, buddy, you raised a good point. The lake is partly your property, isn't it? Your dad built most of that dock. Could be something fishy legally. I've been wondering the same thing, I admitted. Maybe I should look up the property deed or something. Ken chuckled. Yeah. Dig through the county records, see if this dumb HOA actually owns the water at all. I leaned back, pulling on the cool steel of my beer bottle. Ken was right. Why did I assume the HOA even had ownership? All these years it was the community lake. But what if it wasn't? This is an old subdivision. Maybe the developer never turned it over to the HOA. Maybe they stole something. All right, I said. Tomorrow morning I'm going to the county records office. I'll ask about the lake deed. If the HOA doesn't legally own this water, They're running around like the Keystone Cops. Ken laughed. Get 'em, man. And if you find out it's part of your property or something, you could literally buy the whole lake on them. Jesus, Ken. I'll just buy a new TV instead. I cracked a small grin. But you might be onto something. After hanging up, I sat a while longer sipping the beer slowly. The water in the pond rippled under the moonlight. If Christine and her clipboard thought they could laugh at me tonight, I planned to make them eat those laughs with a side of humble pie. The next morning I got up at dawn. The sky was a washed-out purple, early birds chirping. I had promised Emily we'd go fishing together. Despite everything, we launched my canoe onto the same corner of the lake where Christine had found me. It felt peaceful out on the water, the way it always used to. Emily giggled when a tiny sunfish tugged on her line. Fishing had been in my blood, a tradition, a simple joy. There was pure freedom in moments like that. No HOA officiousness on the water, just me, my daughter, and the sound of lapping waves. After an hour we caught our fill, and I dropped Emily back off at the dock. She waved and ran inside after breakfast. Suddenly alone on the water, I let the paddle rest on my knees, glancing around the peaceful lake. The bright yellow violation ticket I had taped to my dashboard felt heavy in my pocket. Was this where my dad and grandpa fished, decades ago? If they saw me now, they'd wonder what happened to quiet, respectful me. I hated being the angry hero, but someone had to do something. I rowed back in slowly, parking the canoe and climbing out. The sun was up now, fully day, and the HOA had presumably moved on. I wanted to think they'd forgotten by morning. I drove into town to get coffee and calm my nerves before heading to the records office. The neighborhood felt strangely quiet for a weekday. A few neighbors noticed me while I walked inside the old municipal building, but all I got were guilty glances. Like we heard, that poor guy. Some might have been scared me into trouble. Inside the records office, the clerk was an older lady who recognized me. Back so soon, Mr. Dixon. Or should I say, sir, you've been ticketed. I laughed. You got rumors flying faster than wildfire around here. She cleared her throat, eyebrows raised. Yes, I heard something about an HOA fine. Crazy times. So about this lake, I said, sliding the canoe map across the counter. Can I see the deed? Her eyes scanned it. Let's see. She poked at the screen a bit. It looks like the lake itself is still owned by the developer's company. The HOA manages it, but they don't hold the title. It's all common area. Now, there's an interesting note. Some older document says there's a special clause. If someone wants to buy it, they'd have to buy the entire parcel, not piece by piece. I frowned. So if I had 500 grand, I could buy the whole lake from who? County developer. County said, if it ever goes up for sale, they'd sell it to anyone. She explained. It's a private lake, just not owned by HOA. But as far as I know, it's not exactly on the market. I nodded. So the HOA can't sell it unless they somehow own it, right? Correct. They only enforce HOA rules on it, which is weird, she said. But legally it's separate. That at least explained their audacity. Without ownership or a permit system, fishing fine was probably unenforceable. But they had all the power to hassle folks who didn't know better. I thanked her and left with notes scribbled on a coffee-stained napkin. My mind was racing. Maybe the HOA didn't own it. But this developer did? Or the county? If there was a clause to buy it all, maybe I should keep that in mind. Walking out of City Hall into the morning sun, I dialed Ken again. Guess what? I said with a half smile. The county says the lake isn't even HOA property. It's held by the developer and nobody's managing it except the HOA unofficially. Ken whistled. So Christine's crew was fining you for trespassing on developer's property without knowing it. Unbelievable. I know, I replied. So they've been running around like they own it. But we might actually be dealing with a private sale situation if that clause is real. Sounds to me like you should buy the lake, Ken said. Deadpan. Wouldn't that be a good payback? I almost snorted my coffee. Yeah, right. I'll just ring up Jerry's Family Earthworks and say, hey, got a lake for sale? He chuckled. Hell, you never know. Something like this, you gotta think bigger. You hold a fine now, put your money where your mouth is. I'll keep that in mind, I said slyly. Thanks, man. That afternoon I attended the HOA board meeting. They held them monthly in the community clubhouse. I walked in, slightly bemused to see half the neighborhood seated around folding tables. Christine was there looking very official. She even had a nameplate in front of her, Christine, board president. Neighbors murmured as they recognized me. As soon as I sat down, they passed me a slip. Violation notice response form. It asked me to respond to the fishing fine, possibly to pay or to contest in court. Just reading it made me grit my teeth again. The meeting began with mundane stuff. Potholes, pool hours. My mind drifted. I watched Christine talking in low tones to another board member, Pat. They glanced at me and smirked. I could hear snatches. That was ridiculous. Some people. Finally, during open comments, I stood. "Excuse me," I said loudly, clearing my throat. The room fell quiet. "I have something to say." All eyes on me. I noticed the treasurer's face look a little pale. My anger was still there, but now it also felt like a wave of justice warming behind it. "I just got fined $500 for fishing in this lake," I began. Heads turned. I love fishing. My dad taught me on this very dock. I always thought this was part of being in this community. Christine's lip curled as I spoke. She crossed her arms in front of her. I walked down the aisle so everyone could see. "So I'm confused. Why do I need permission from the HOA to cast a line in the water I've cast in since I was a kid?" Someone in the back snorted. "Because it's the HOA rules now, buddy. This isn't about rules. This is about me feeling like a criminal in my own neighborhood," I went on. "And yes, apparently being called a criminal came right from your own mouth, Christine. That's the truth. And now you forced me to come here." There were audible gasps. "Man, that board is nuts," a neighbor muttered to himself. Murmurs picked up around the room. A couple of neighbors started whispering. It was just fishing. She had no right. Christine waved one hand. "That's enough," she said flatly. "This meeting is not for personal grievances." I shook my head. "This isn't personal. It's about fairness. We pay dues, we own property. This lake is for all of us. If someone has the paperwork saying we can't fish without signing up, they need to show it. I haven't seen a single official document posted. So if this citation is so valid, where is it written? Because otherwise, you might as well put a fine on me for breathing." Christine narrowed her eyes. "The rules are emailed, and they're in the binder in the clubhouse. We just didn't have time to make posters." "I'd like to see that binder," I demanded. "And I doubt any of this water is HOA property anyway." She glanced at Pat. "Why are you suddenly saying the HOA doesn't own the lake?" Pat cleared his throat, looking uncomfortable. "Well, officially, it's a common area. It's part of the development plan, but not privately owned." That was interesting to me and to others. Heads turned, eyes widened. "If it's a common area, how did Christine find me?" I continued. "So, the HOA doesn't actually own the lake. They manage it, I get that. But fine people over it. And what about permits? I've never heard of permits. This feels like a trap." Christine shot back. "The bylaws are clear. We've been clear in communication. Lies and traps." Someone yelled from the back. A few started clapping. I realized the whole crowd was mostly on my side now. The air felt electric, as if the entire neighborhood had been itching to say enough. I took another breath, letting their cheers die down. "Look, I don't want a huge fight with my neighbors. I just want to fish. But something's messed up here. If the HOA had the right to fine me, fine. If not, it's harassment. And to be honest, I think this is harassment." Christine's face went red. "We have the right to enforce the rules, we do." "Yeah? Well, I have the right to decent open space, and that's what my property is." I shot back. Maybe if people cared less about policing each other's fishing poles, and more about actual improvements, we wouldn't be in this mess. A chorus of "hear, hear" came from the crowd. I felt emboldened. "All right, Mr. Dixon," Christine said through gritted teeth. "You're out of order. This is not how you address the board." "I'm not going anywhere," I stated calmly. "Just as I'm not paying that fine until I get a damn explanation or it's off my record. And I'm sure a lot of people here will back me up." She looked around and saw many puzzled or angry faces among residents. Pat coughed loudly. "I got my lawyer friend's advice. See how they react when faced with truth." Someone yelled, "What's next?" "Fines for kids swimming." Another laughed. "I got fined for a gnome in my yard last month." The chairman banged a pen. "Let's proceed with the agenda." But nobody moved. Everyone was too focused on the exchange that had just gone down. The rest of the meeting was a blur. I felt lightheaded afterward, as if I'd just bellowed at a courtroom. exposing that the emperor had no clothes on this fishing controversy. But I had to admit, Christine took one hell of a hit to her authority in front of the crowd. She sputtered through the rest of the agenda, but it was like she was trying to speak while wearing boxing gloves. I left the clubhouse feeling exhausted, but oddly exhilarated. Outside, one neighbor caught up to me. "Dude," he said quietly. "I'm sorry they gave you crap. That was bullshit. What are you gonna do next?" "I might talk to an attorney," I told him. "First I need that fine off my record. But I've got some ideas, and it's all legal." "You think you'll challenge it?" he asked. "No point in waiting. I'm already planning something bigger." I had an answer. "I'll be in touch." We patted fists and went our separate ways. But his words lingered. Something bigger. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with the yard map, and that napkin of notes from the city clerk. My wife poured me coffee as I scribbled out a plan. The plan was crazy when I said it out loud to myself. "Buy the lake." Mary choked on her sip. "What? You want to do what with our savings?" I shrugged. "Think about it. HOA likes playing owners. Fine. Let's literally own the water instead." She blinked. "Are you serious?" "Complete serious," I assured her. "If I buy the lake, I control it. We can make whatever rules we want. No more Christine telling me what to do." Her face was a mix of amusement and worry. "But can you even buy it? Who sells a freaking lake?" I held up the napkin. "That's what I asked at the county. They said if it ever went up, it's sold in one piece. That clause. We just need to find the seller. If it's with the county, maybe they're actually auctioning it off for back taxes or something." We spent the evening researching. The county website was clunky, but I managed to find that old sales listing for the developer's remaining properties. It showed an entire 15-acre lake and land parcel currently marked pending sale. Final offers requested. My heart leapt. "Mary, look at this. Pending sale." She peered at the screen. "Someone can buy it, all of it. All of it. If it's pending sale, maybe we can jump in. They want final offers soon." The number next to it was a small fortune. $320,000. Fist size. This felt both hilarious and terrifying. On the one hand, the solution to all my problems was literally buying the lake. On the other hand, we did not have $320K lying around. But then I remembered Uncle Joe's timber stocks, our savings account, my 401K. All would have to be mortgaged. If that meant no HOA could ever boss me or my daughter around again, maybe it was worth it. Mary slowly broke into a smile. "I have to admit, that would be a hell of a revenge." "Exactly." I winked. "And hey, we'd finally have exclusive water rights." She laughed. "We're nuts." "Maybe." But all I could think was Christine wouldn't see this coming. She'd been hell-bent on fines and sign policing. She'd never dream I'd buy the entire lake to get back at them. It would be sweet. So I made the calls that night. A loan from our bank, talks with a lawyer to structure the purchase, and an offer for the lake before anyone else did. By dawn I had documents to sign, and a sense of apprehensive excitement. A week later, I'm standing by the shore in the same spot Christine had ambushed me. Only now my throat was dry for a different reason. "This is it," I told Mary quietly, my heart pounding. "We own it." She grinned under the rising sun. Next to us our closing papers fluttered on the tailgate of our truck. The deed was in our names. The lake, all 15 acres of water, and the small island in the center, belonged to us. Not the HOA, not Christine. Us. Christine by now was already at the clubhouse complaining that something had happened to the sale. She didn't know I was the buyer. I'd kept that part hush-hush, even from some neighbors to avoid early leaks. I stepped into the lake again. The water enveloped my legs. It felt amazing. This time, no clipboard-wielding officer in sight, only the gentle splash of water and the tangy smell of new beginnings. I shouted to my family, who'd come down in their pajamas, "Let's fish, boys and girls." Emily cheered and jumped off the boat dock with her pole. We cast lines together into this lake that already felt like ours. And it was. Later that morning, a black Suburban rolled up. Christine and a couple HOA goons stepped out, phones already signaling panic. I watched Christine stride up, saw her eyes widen as she spotted me at the water's edge. Her smug smile fell off as if someone suddenly flicked it. "Mr. Dixon," she yelled. "This lake, how did you?" I held up the deed, smiling widely. "Oh, I guess I'm the new HOA president now." "Congratulations, Christine. on being uninvited. Her face went beet red. She sputtered, opening her mouth. You can't do that. You know this isn't even allowed. I waved a hand. Actually, it was. And now I do. This right here, all mine. You see that sign by the entrance? I pointed. It was freshly painted. Private property. No trespassing. Members only. But underneath, in bold letters was added, banned HOA board and members. Christine paled. You can't ban us from our own lake. I laughed. Oh, but I just did. You're trespassing now, technically. See, you're not a member anymore. I'm the only member now. You're the outsider. She stumbled forward. You can't just turn us all away. Watch me, I said. I lifted a bucket and poured water from the lake over my head, letting it cascade down. The sunlit droplets looked like victory sparkles. This is what you wanted to take away from me. Now I'm the one who stands above the rest. One of her HOA cronies muttered. He's gone mad. But I was gleefully sane at this point. Christine found her voice at last. This is outrageous. I'll see you in court. I shrugged. I'll be here. By the way, your fishing permit website is down right now too. As they stomped off, Christine sighed, eyeing my smirk. I felt complete satisfaction. The entire neighborhood, every last member of the HOA, was banned. No more surprise tickets for dumb reasons. No more enforced rules just because one person decided to act like a dictator. I turned back to the water where Emily reeled in a small bass. My heart felt as full as that lake. I had done it. All the anger, all the hassle, it ended on our own terms. Mary tucked me in that night, pride in her eyes. That was something, she whispered. I just grinned and kissed her forehead. Out on the dock, under the moon, I cast a line into the still water. No one to lecture me, no fat fines, awaiting at the bank. The world was quiet except for the gentle plink of my hook hitting the water. I could almost hear the lake sigh in relief. As I felt a tug on my line, I smiled and started reeling in. My blood boiled at how easy it had been to beat the HOA with their own tactic. How many evenings I'd sit here free of their bull. This was my lake, our lake, and they could fish somewhere else. Indeed, Christine got one last piece of poetry. At our first community BBQ by the water, I raised a toast with extra lemonade to family, friends, and never having to answer to the HOA ever again. To the lake, I said, and everyone cheered. And somewhere, I like to think, Christine was sipping punch that night too. Very carefully, out of the waters she no longer had the right to step into. Yes, this time I was the one in charge, and I intended to keep it that way.